Hi, my name is Chetan Walia. Today's webinar, of course, is about giving you the business solutions, the out-of-box thinking that you can implement right now or perhaps get ready with implementation once the lockdown is over. However, I want to set a context in place for this particular webinar. So I'll begin with a very short presentation today. We've kept maximum number of times for your specific questions and ideas that we may be able to generate live out here. But I want to set a context in place for those questions to come, and I want to set a format in place as to how you can ask questions. So the format is straightforward. You can start typing your questions in the chat box right away. We'll take them at the end of the presentation. These remain anonymous to the rest of the viewers, so you don't have to worry about what you are asking and how you are asking, but try to be as specific as possible about your business and situation so that we are able to add value to that. Now, to begin with the presentation, it's amazing how many businesses that we've interacted with in the last 2 or 3 weeks specifically. And it's also amazing as to the vast majority of them that seem to be totally stuck for solutions. Yes, of course, the situation is like that, and we tend to get stuck because the instant action today has to be on preservation. We understand all that. Having said that, we want to orient this particular session today towards a futuristic view of things and examine how and why do we get stuck in our thinking or in our ability to generate certain ideas or look at certain connections or look at certain paradigms. So there are limitations in the human mind, and I want to illustrate that with the help of 3 very specific examples. You see, the ice cream was invented as far back as 2000 BC. Now, how does the human mind work? It took us 3,900 years later to innovate or figure out something called the ice cream cone. The meat was on planet before humans ever arrived there. Bread was first baked in 2600 BC. Any idea as to how much time did it take for us to put 2 slices and a piece of meat in between and call it a sandwich? Well, you'll be surprised at this. It took us 4,300 years to come up with a sandwich. The modern flush toilet was invented in 1775, and it wasn't until 1857 that someone could think of a toilet paper. Why is it that the human mind, why is it that our collective intelligence, why is it that so many of us around the planet are not able to make these connections? Once they are made, they're ridiculously obvious. We can't even believe that the world existed without them. 3,900 years to figure out a cone, 4,000 years to put 2 slices of bread together. Why is it that human mind can't see these connections? And the larger point is that thousands and millions of these connections exist to this day, which have specific business possibilities, which have specific opportunities for us, but our human mind is not able to see them. And I want to start with 5 reasons as to why we are not able to see them, specifically in context to the structures and leadership that we have created in our organizations. And then I want to get into 5 specific ways that we can actually focus on seeing these. So let's examine the first one. 5 reasons why we can't see these connections, and I call it the norm of mediocrity. And the first one is this: we have a great preference for resemblance. What do we mean by that? Across the world, around the companies, and this comes from a research done recently by MIT who interviewed 700 CEOs across the world, and they came up with a conclusion that research suggests that people have a preference for resemblance, which means we want to recruit people in our organizations which are just like us. We want to promote people in our organizations which are just like us. We want to give opportunities for future leadership to people who resonate with our line of thinking, who work in a similar setting, come from a similar background, have a similar education, and as a result, we've developed a preference for resemblance. Now, so far, so good, but once we have a preference for resemblance, which is essentially promoting a certain way of thinking, obviously, it cannot be innovating out of that thinking itself. The second reason is a preference for a tunnel vision. A tunnel vision is that we get specifically glued to the way of functioning of a certain system, a certain industry, the way things are done around there, a certain company, a certain value system. People seem to believe that values are set in stone and can't change. That's not true. Values change all the time. So we get glued in a certain way of thinking, bounded by a certain tunnel vision, and we can't seem to get out of it. A recent interview of US General McChrystal, he stated a wonderful point which is worth examining over and over again. He says these days, problem has a different solution on different days. There is no point being in a tunnel vision. The third reason why we fall for the norm of mediocrity is this unity of command structure. Organization structures, strategies, principles of strategies, all that we've come to understand in the modern business management education has its roots in deriving it from research on military strategies. One of the founding principles of army or military strategies is unity of command, because if you don't adhere to the unity of command there, people die. Unfortunately, blindly, organizations have created a hierarchical structure based on this. Now, the thing to remember, unity of command is nice. Of course, we need a certain resemblance of a structure, a hierarchy where people can work. But we make the mistake of assuming that people are following a unity of command or authority because we are intelligent or we have something to contribute to their lives. It's the biggest misnomer. The latest research on psychology published in HBR as of yesterday say people mostly succumb to the unity of command for their own reasons of security, not that you have some supersonic superpower intelligence vested in there. And when we are succumbing to a certain unity of command, a certain thought process, obviously it doesn't leave enough room to think of a sandwich or an ice cream cone, for example. The fourth reason is the garb of practicality. I think it's the biggest nonsense thrown around to people that follow logic and follow rationality, and this is not practical and that is impractical. Favoring practicality, favoring logic, favoring reason, of course, is good, but it creates an inability to recognize and appreciate creative ideas, which will not always be practical. And the final reason, and perhaps the most important one for leaders listening in to take cognizance of, that decision making in recent research has been significantly proven to be malignant or cancerous. The best and the brightest minds with all the right intentions that surround your boardrooms undoubtedly act malignant, which basically means the self-interest takes over the larger interest of people and ecosystems and stuff. Decision-making is not based on perfect information, as you may well know. People contributing to those decision makings don't seem to resolve conflicts, as we discussed in one of our previous webinars, in a fruitful manner. Most of decision making opinions and people who are contributing to a larger decision has been significantly proved to be malignant. We have a specific webinar later in the month on decision making, and we'll cover this in detail there. But for the time being, just note that these are the 5 reasons we are saying that organizations and leadership in particular in organizations are not able to come up with unique and useful ideas for the future, as is reflected in the current times. And it's important to keep these reasons at the back of your mind while we go into the solutions, which is basically 5 things that are must from a leadership perspective, not just for today, in the age of disruption and digital transformations. What are the 5 things that leaderships can do differently to be able to create a different system for ideas to emerge? The first roadblock we said was a preference for resemblance, and the first solution we are suggesting is to truly champion inclusivity. Now, what does this mean? Examine your organizations or examine organizations around you. People who are in charge of developing people of future leaders are usually experienced old men who seek relevance in cloning themselves. This is not me saying, this is shared with me in a research paper published by IIM Ahmedabad recently, and a very renowned professor at that. He was researching leadership development practices in different organizations, and he came up with this conclusion that people who are essentially in charge of delivering the future leaders in our organizations usually tend to be old men, and the prime objective of these old men is to seek their own relevance in cloning people so that their legacy continues. The mindsets of these people are self-enforcing. The people who are aspiring to be future leaders has to do something in accordance with that mindset, or they have no chance. And the final thing about this point that I want to point out to you is, how inclusive are you? We use these terms, we throw them in our organizations, we talk about diversity, but I've worked with hundreds of companies in this country, and I can tell you from very personal experience, our companies are anything but inclusive. How open is your leadership, your bosses, and your organizations to the LGBTQ, to women, to racial minorities, to different cultures, to hiring someone from a third world nation? I'm 100% sure if you cross your heart and you put your hand on your heart, you'll be able to answer negative to some of these. Now, here is the danger for this. I have narrated several breakthroughs to you in our previous sessions. I've pointed out these discoveries, that connections that people make. There is a startling revelation about these discoveries. These minorities, the LGBTQ, the women, the racial minorities, the different cultures, and third world countries specifically, are originators of major breakthroughs. How inclusive is your organization to these people? Because if you're not, you've discarded a majority of chunk of originators of where ideas come from. And it becomes especially important because a majority of the leadership that exists within an organization fail to motivate people who are unlike them. If I think differently from you, then I have no motivation left from you, because what you'll be constantly telling me that is that I'm not practical. And the reason behind that is because human nature or human mind has a preference for resemblance. And the paradox is this. At the end of this whole cultural cycle where leaderships are wanting to clone and create a practical environment and be non-inclusive to people who actually generate ideas, the paradox is we end up with a singular kind of a self-boasting, mediocre voice, which is expert in its own sense, they deliver in its own sense, but will have no answers whatsoever to a situation like today when things have become uncertain. Our second point is this: a need for acquisition of a broad-based knowledge. We operate in a tunnel vision. We've become experts of sorts within a very micro-level definition of expertise, a narrow domain of expertise. If I'm a finance guy, I'll stick to that. If I'm an HR guy, I'll stick to that. If I'm an engineer, I'm an engineer for the rest of my life. And we operate in very narrow domains of expertise, but we have a lot of expertise about that narrow domain. That expertise breeds familiarity, and organizations need familiarity to be able to manage certain things. That expertise also, at an individual level, breeds relevance. For example, if I have expertise and over a period of 20-30 years of experience, I've obviously honed that expertise to a certain level, that makes me relevant in the system because no one new who is coming in will have that much knowledge about this domain. So it increases relevance. But familiarity and relevance breeds certainty. Right now, you have a lot of expertise in an organization. You have a lot of people who are relevant, who guard it by their life. And that breeds certainty that if I put something in this system, it will churn out this. All that well and good. But the key question to ask in today's times is this: what or who are your options in unfamiliar situations? It's great to breathe certainty. I get that and I understand that and I have nothing against that. How certain are you about the future? How certain are you about tomorrow? How certain are you as to what ways your industry might get disrupted? How certain are you as to the role of artificial intelligence and what they will play in our economy? The questions of future are uncertain. By breeding certainty, the suffering point is this, that we don't know who is our option for this unfamiliar situation. And that's a very relevant point today. There is a crisis. It's absolutely unfamiliar situation. It's going to be unfamiliar for the next 1 or 2 years is what I think. Who are your options to get you out of that? The structure that we have created so far is based on a very thin base of knowledge, and we don't know what the options are. Even if this question is not hitting home with you right now, trust me, 3 months later, you'll be looking for people who can bail you out of trouble. Look at organizations today. They think that we need to innovate. What happens? You don't go internally into your organization to ask who can innovate. You go to a consultant to ask, oh, help us innovate. Your industry, your problem, your money, your knowledge, your capital. Why aren't you able to think of a solution? The reason is this: you don't have an option left in the system. Because of the breeding of relevance and familiarity, then we'll be able to outthink something that we haven't thought of, or outthink the future. And a third thing is this, a much abused, spoken about word, which is called collaboration. Intense collaboration. We talk about unity of command. The sufferer of unity of command is collaboration. And the key question that I love to ask businesses is this: I'm a stranger to you. Why should I trust your vision? I'm not your employee. There are 10,000 people maybe working in your company who have no option but to trust you and your vision. How do you convince a stranger that I should trust your vision? The reason for collaboration is this, that through collaboration, we have a hope of creating intellectual properties or assets, or think of something that may have immense strategic options. If I think of it alone and I haven't got 10,000 other people aligned with me, there is no hope for execution. So the reason is important for collaboration. However, the meaning that people derive from collaboration is I must collaborate to get a certain reward, both for myself and for the organization. So we think of a very noble idea and we bring it down to a very dollar or a rupee based idea that I'm doing it because I have something in it for me. And then we throw around terms like win-win relationships and stuff. In my opinion, in today's business environment, win-win is nothing but a manipulative tool that we use to make imprecise commitments to other people. No one has the intention. No one understands the true win-win. I've been teaching win-win for the last 20 years. With maybe over 100 or 200,000 people that I've tried to reach through win-win. And I can tell you, they understand it. They go back in their organizations and simply use it as a simple manipulation tool to get something in return that they want. So we haven't understood collaboration. The challenge is that we are trying to find diamonds in the rough, or we're trying to find innovations in this pool of madness that we call an organization. And people have to polish those diamonds in order for it to become innovation. And when this is the challenge, wrongly, what organizations focus on is collaboration. Collaboration is an outcome of trust. It's not the other way around. What we need to focus on is building trust. And when there is trust, there is no need for a unity of command. It falls in place automatically. Trust leads to collaboration. Forced collaboration is counterproductive. It only leads to mistrust. Our fourth solution is this: push beyond efficiency. You need to nurture creativity, get over the garb of practicality. Even if 10 or 20% of your organization is rational enough and focuses on practicality, they will achieve your goals. We don't need 100% people thinking practically. What is the focus currently of businesses, or largely of businesses, is this: we focus on increasing revenue, we focus on reducing costs, and a constant argument or a constant debate in organization is what is the return on investment. Fair enough. What about the future? There is a recent study by IBM, I think it was published in 2015, where they interviewed all of the consulting firms available in the planet, and they came to this conclusion: that in the world of rapid disruption, in the world of uncertainty, and in the world where artificial intelligence is going to become the norm of the future, the most in-demand leadership skill of tomorrow will be creativity. And the most underutilized skill, especially in our Indian organizations, is creativity. And if that's the future, what are you leading for? If you haven't led to unleash the creative or innovative potential in your organization, as a leader, in my opinion, you'll be rightfully blamed for a future decline or the current decline. Why is it that we hit a roadblock and we're not able to come up with an idea? The reason is this: you're not able to think creatively, or our people have been trained to think extremely practically. So the practical thing is preserve cash, restore supply chain, somehow get back together, reach a break-even point. Absolutely practical. You might even reach there, but someone will outthink, out-strategize, out-monetize, and outdo you on thinking creatively, and it happens all the time. And the thing to stop doing is to seek uniformity, especially in leadership. If you have every leader who is an expert, you have every leader who knows ROI, costs and revenue, you have every single of your leader is able to come up with practical solutions. Conversely, what does this mean? It means that none of your leaders will be able to come up with a creative input or a creative solution to a problem. And that's the biggest problem that faces businesses today. It's a complete creative brain drain. And our final solution, and I'm rushing through this because I can't wait to get on the other side to take your questions. A final thing that we want to urge companies listening in today to do: your normal decision making processes are malignant. It will create power. The whole organization structure is meant to deliver power. You want to be number one, number two, number three, it gives you power. You want to become a CEO, you get your own cabin, you get into an isolated corner, that gives you power. Your money gives you power. Everything is oriented towards getting a slice of power. People that have created breakthroughs, companies that have created breakthroughs, the Edisons, Einstein, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates of the world, focused on creating awesomeness. Power just happened to be a result. So create awesomeness, create awesome people, create awesome ideas, create awesome energies, but don't create power, because when you create power, people learn automatically in organizations to hold power, and holding power is anti-creative. What are you awesome at? Another question that I love to ask businesses and companies to be able to expand their thinking is a very simple question. What are you? What is your organization really, truly, completely awesome at? Not just good at, not just great at. What are you awesome at? Is there a thing that people will look at you and say, oh, wow, that's awesome. We could have never done that. And if it's not there, you better get there, because that's the differentiator for the future. You see, no human being in history has ever been able to stop transformation. We can succeed in stopping it within one's own company or own family in a little ecosystem, but someone outside will produce it. So no one's been able to stop transformation. That's reality. All you can do is have a creative response to that transformation, and the way to do it is what we tried to present in these 5 or 6 slides to you. Breed inclusivity. Bring in what you don't know. It's common logical sense, no matter how practically you want to think about it. You don't know everything in life. Obviously, you're not God or something. So when you don't know something, you need to bring into your organization what you don't know. And the key to getting that is being inclusive to different kind of extreme voices who know things, because you have absolute great and marvelous systems to convert that into practicality. But you need to get in something that you don't know in order to be able to make a practical case out of it. The next thing to do is to breed trust, not collaboration. How much do your people trust each other? How much do they rely on each other? What kind of relationships exist? Don't focus on collaboration. I think by focusing on collaboration and by telling people to get along, the subtle message passed to the people in their brains is, obviously, I don't trust him, so I must get along with him. Don't focus on collaboration. It's old school, it's outdated. What you need to focus on is simply build trust between all these diverse people that you have. As long as the trust is there, the collaboration is an automatic effort to create something out of nothing. The next thing is to nurture creativity. I can't stress enough on this point. I've been harping about it for the last 3 seminars, and I will harp about it for the next 10 as well. That what we need in our organization today is not practicality, is not intelligence. It's a fundamental requirement that you have all that. What we need in our organizations is not the greatest of the finance guy or the greatest of engineers or the greatest technical department or the greatest designer or something. What you need in your organization today is someone who can think creatively, because creativity creates novelty, and that novelty is what is needed today for you to come out of the crisis. You already have the expertise to create utility. Both combined together are a force to reckon with. Either one on its own has no meaning whatsoever. And if we are able to do this through inclusivity, trust, and nurturing creativity, that is the leadership that this organization or your organization or this country needs to enable awesomeness. And how is that going to come about? If you want to create transformation, you need inclusivity, trust, and a system for nurturing creativity. Your skill as a leader is then tested to create awesomeness by combining them together into a coherent system. Systems currently are designed for ease of management. Your job as a leader is not to ease up management. Your job as a leader is to produce awesomeness, because that's what changes the world. That's what changes your organization, and that's what inspires people as such. This is a summary of what we discussed. 5 musts in these times are these 5. Please start putting down your questions and make them specific so that we can get into the answers. This was just an overview to get you to think differently. Your questions can be specific to your business. It can be specific on how to do this. Anything, the floor is open. It's all yours. We'll be live in a few moments. Thank you.
We are welcoming your questions. We'll continue to take questions as long as this is going on. So the first on my screen is first an acknowledgement that yes, startups operate in a very different way. Rightly so, and is basically the reason that a lot of disruptions, a lot of creative practices do come from startups because their decision-making process is not as malignant. Thank you for writing and acknowledging that. And the first question that I have here is, what can consulting and advisory companies do differently? So, well, consulting and advisory, I think the resources that they sit on are one of the best, most intelligent, most creative in a way, and something that every one of us can turn to at this point in time. So the only thing is probably the model of your working is something if you can relook at. Is there a way that you can create a consulting practice which is more about the right things that people are looking for answers right now? Is it also about how you are co-creating with them? Is it also about, are you aiding and supplementing to what they are trying to do to combat this situation? Do you have solutions that what can companies do in this situation of coronavirus? What can do they do to modify their product, people, resources? And most of all, the kind of resources you have, very uniquely, this we were discussing that why can't you be lending your partners or lending your senior staff as, let's say 2-3 months to a company to create a fantabulous structure with them, lease out your talent. That is what you sit at. So it's just a way to look at it.
Airlines as a sector is totally off. What is it that they can do? It's straightforward. The problem that the world is facing today is obviously not passengers waiting to be ferried from one place to the other. The problem that most companies are grappling today with in all their conversations of strategic nature is to figure out a problem of supply chain. And the assumption made that trucks is the only way to solve that problem. Why not airplanes? And I think airlines have missed a trick out here. The world is struggling with supply chain. Why is your business model still centered around passengers and layoffs and stuff? Why not crack that problem? And per cubic foot or whatever metric you use, I don't think airplanes will cost more than trucks. So that's an idea for them.
How would you nurture creativity in turbulence times like COVID when the basic challenge is to remain on track? So not just in times of COVID, anytime, yeah, every time that you want to remain on track, you will not be able to nurture creativity. And just to answer your question, creativity really thrives in these times of chaos. It is anti-fragile, and the only thing that you have to give a room is for it to bubble up. That's all. So not that it has to be nurtured, it's there. Just look around, look a little beyond than the people that you turn to, and you will be able to find a dearth of such people. There is no dearth of such people who will be able to convert this for you.
Also, whatever business you were doing is currently doing a zero revenue. So if you keep on doing that, you'll do more of zero. So what good does it do anyways? Well, while leaders seek familiarity and experience, does it also lead to greater competition and hence security? Absolutely. I think the reason for experience, and if you examine, forget leadership for a moment, why do you want to do an MBA or an engineering or something and then get a job in that domain is for reasons of security. It gives you assurance. So obviously, everyone does it for the same reasons. Leaders over a period of time overdo it, and because they've overdone it, they know nothing else. So they fall into that trap and then they can't get out of it.
Risk appetite should be high for the companies which are trying to do this at this point in time. How can any organization enhance that? So you rightly said risk appetite is one of the factors. However, very risk averse organizations and very structured organizations today are exactly in the same space as risky and high risk appetite organizations. So it's only because there is a quotient of risk appetite that opens people to critical thinking. A quotient of risk appetite opens people to the creativity and innovation aspect that we keep talking about. And yes, how can you get it is about creating this 5-point agenda. Maybe start somewhere if it is not there. And that's basically the way to move from one step to another.
Also look at it that if you are not taking these risks today, that's in fact the greatest risk, is to get stuck on an old business model which is generating zero revenue. What innovations can you see in infrastructure industries like cement or steel? Infrastructure industries, okay, of course your sales are slow and you're struggling with issues of supply chain, etc. But I would like to say this. Uh, Research from academics and medicine has been done on coronavirus on metal, and they have found that the virus sustains itself for a certain number of time on metal. Why hasn't a cement company done research yet on how does the virus react with cement? And if it has a different reaction, supposedly, I mean, I don't know the answer to it, but when you do it, you'll come to an answer. Maybe the coronavirus doesn't sustain itself on cement, and if it doesn't, you've got a huge business opportunity staring at you in your face of redoing the entire public space with cement. So my question to you, whoever's asking this, would be, what is your company, if it's a cement company, been focusing on for the last 45 days? You should have already done this research, and if you've got an affirmative answer, you would be changing the world market today.
So true. How can you transform a typical security management company, which is an old world industry? I think right now, this is again one of the sectors which is fortunately doing well. With the kind of lockdowns and with the kind of arrangements the private societies or the offices spaces and networks are asking, this is one place. However, yes, it sits with a very huge responsibility of ensuring health and wellness for people who are working. So I think the focus has to be bring that compassion, bring that kind of novelty into how with some use of technology you can ease it out for those people, and then how can you actually be building up on people's trust and be there to service those people.
Right. What can the advertising agency do? We've answered this in previous seminars. I think advertising agency needs to move away from the model that they're used to, which was to charge client monthly fees and stuff for designing services. You need to move to conversion services. People are not going to pay for a good design as long as it converts. And I think Publicis released an ad today, is what I saw, that they are already targeting conversions to deliver the end customer to you. And I think the quicker the advertising agency is able to come to that kind of a model, the better it will be. And it's also ironic, an advertising agency, which is essentially a creative agency, is lost for creative ideas today on how to turn around a business.
I'm great at co-creating ideas and creative things, and yet it loses its sheen when it comes to execution. Yes, this is an interesting thing that you pointed out, and in many our conversations, the problem of execution by and large comes. And in our opinion, this problem is more because whatever you create or whatever you're trying to solve, basically you're not going to the problem solving lens. What you're going to is solving the symptoms of that problem. So whatever gap analysis, whatever solution you're trying to implement, whatever creative idea you think that you have in your head could be just a solution of the symptom of that problem and not the actual problem. Again, what Chetan highlighted in the presentation about collaboration and unity of command, perhaps what your driving execution is from a structure of command and enrollment rather than really active collaboration. So these could be some tangents that you can look at, and probably there is a way to deal with it.
What should a packaged food company do differently? I don't know about India, but I know internationally packaged food is a huge consumption industry because a lot of people rely on packaged food. I think what packaged food industries haven't been able to tap into effectively is variety. It's singular focused and singular tasting, most of it. People who are sick of their home food as well in these modern times when restaurants are shut, the way to tap them would have been variety and not make in grocery stores. If I walk in today, the packaged food I see is the same as what's cooked in my home. So really no hope for sales out there. What you need is variety. There was a huge opportunity to have replaced restaurants with packaged food today. If you missed the bus, it's too late, but it's still there because no one else has taken it.
At the time when the challenges are forcing our primal instincts of survival, Is it the right time to chase mandate for transformation, which requires destruction of the status quo? So since you spoke about survival instincts, and I would want to take a cue from history on this, that whenever, the survival question has come up, basically, whether it is through mutation or through evolution, what has survived is something which has been able to transform. So whether you go to biology, whether you go to history, whether you go to whatever you're seeing in the organizations, I think it's not a choice. Rather, it is something sooner or later everyone has to adapt to. And it's about how soon you are able to gear up to it. The status quo, the so-called in my mind or in our minds, has to be, something that will change in times to come.
There are people asking for small businesses. If you can ask specifically, we'll be able to help. There's a question, what can the hotel industry do differently? Well, people are not going to come to the hotels. That sector is officially shut down by the government, but can you be ready with something post the lockdown? Because even post the lockdown, people are unlikely to come to the hotels. Can you get ready with taking the hotel to the people? Which essentially means that can you go to people's homes and convert that into a 2-night 3-stay with all your housekeeping, room services and all that? And that might be a welcome break for people. But even to get ready for that, you need to be working on it today.
Again, I have something which is for a small company, that how can they cope up? Time and again, right now also, and time and again, we have said this, that smaller startups, they have this beautiful opportunity because they are not privy and they are not victim to such mega structures. They start up because they have something new to offer. It's, I think, time that you need to lever on that angle of innovation. It's time that you need to redefine, and you can very quickly, because you will not fall victim to all the 5 things that we have mentioned and many more that we have been keeping a track of.
Also, the small companies are the ones who essentially tend to disrupt the bigger companies, because it's the smaller companies who are far easier to come up with creative ideas and innovations. So small is not a disadvantage right now. It's a big advantage because you're agile. If you don't have the resources, you'll get investments as well. But they come up with an idea. Don't think about small or big, because this is not the world where the big companies will sell or the small ones will sell. It's a world where something creative and something unique will sell. And the smaller companies are in a much better position to come up with that. How do you there are questions on the automobile industry and auto components and stuff. Now, auto component industries is largely dependent on automobile manufacturers, the big players, to give them orders. I think the narrow lens that they adopt is the customer lens, that they can only make their orders for that customer. It is a wrong way to think. Supposing you're in the business of car seats, the same seats are used in cinema halls. If you make steering wheels, the same can be used for putting them as innovations into wheelchairs. It hasn't been done yet. You make rubber components. The whole hospital industry, the PPE industry is working on rubber. So think, I mean, there are endless amounts of options. Just get rid of the box of your customer. We did this for a car seat manufacturing company in 2008 financial crisis. They started supplying seats to cinema halls, and that's today over a 2,000 crore business by itself. So there's nothing that stops you from thinking differently. Wedding planning business, well, obviously weddings are not happening, but can you create a similar experience online? Because that's the only way I see it surviving. This assumption that all resources are essentially manpower has to go. They're not. Manpower is not a resource that 2 people need to get married.
And adding to that, basically wedding planning is about planning. It's about an event planning, it's about memories planning, it's about planning that experience. And that kind of experience is not just required into weddings, but into many things which are even happening virtually today. Even an HR conclave needs an experience, even a leadership summit needs an experience, which is happening virtually. So with just a tweak in thinking, you are blessed with the resources which can plan and execute experiences for you. Bring it there.
That's the best time to be hosting events. Why can't you create an event? Everyone's sitting at home and bored. Create an event. We got lots of questions about event management. A physical event is not possible. Can we convert that virtually? And what's stopping you from creating an event that people would be interested in doing? Get 10 celebrities to give creative solutions. They don't have work anyways. They'll join you and people will pay you for ticketing. Medium-sized chemical and specialty machinery company with about 85% exposure to automotive sector. So if you haven't done it already, it's obviously time to look beyond the singular customer. As I was saying, for the automotive industry, I don't know what chemicals are you doing in, but if you have a chemical company, you presumably have an R&D setup. If you have an R&D setup, figure out a chemical that kills the virus.
And to add to, I think there's a time to look at a little bit of perspective here when I'm hearing Chetan answer these questions. You need to, there is a way you can look at the product and define. You can look at the resources and define. You can look at your raw material and define. So for example, this chemical company, your product goes into the automotive company, but the raw material for it, whatever chemical, surfactant, emulsifier, whatever you are making, is something which can be used in many ways. So similarly, and this holds for all industry, what we are trying to say here is that when you are looking and trying to change the lens, it's not about how my product can go into there. Can I look into the people making into those products? Are they fungible? Is my raw material fungible? Is my process fungible? So I think fungibility is also one important aspect that we should probably keep in mind, which may give us some of the answers.
Yeah. How to convince clients to invest in a real estate business? I like this question. Real estate or any business right now, you'll get an investor supposing you have an idea and you have customers. Now, real estate business obviously does not have customers right now because no one's buying property. But there's a whole lot of people who are sitting on properties or who are paying or who are staying in rented accommodations who are paying that rentals. These rentals are all negotiable today. They're likely to go down into the future because there's going to be no demand. Can you tap into that market? I'm not saying lease your properties out. Can you think of an offer where you can approach people who are living on rent to chuck that property, move into your building or whatever sector or whatever accommodation you have ready, charge them the rent, and 3 years later give them the option to buy it if the market improves, or otherwise just take that rent and take that money and take that cash and sit on it. We discussed this in one of the earlier seminars on innovation, as rent to own is a concept which doesn't exist in India, exists in very few countries in the world. That's an opportunity that will get you the customers. Once you have the customers and a database of people, you get the investor. Otherwise, you won't get the investor.
I'm clubbing 1-2 questions here. Essentially, they're saying a similar kind of a thing. How do you build trust when people have inherent territorial instincts and resistance? And how do you especially overcome this challenge with the top leaders who are at the helm of affairs? So yes, these are exactly the challenges of a structured Newtonian organization that we even talked in the last webinar. And basically, it's not that, it's a litmus test or you give them a dose and they'll change for it. The point is to call this out. The point is that you are in a position that you have that kind of a visibility to them. The aspect is to recognize where these patterns are arising. Building trust is not that, okay, you're supposed to trust me. Just by saying that, it won't happen. Do as you say and say as you do is something we've always heard but hardly followed. So these are some of the things. And as far as aligning top leaders to it, if your leadership is actually coming from a place of expertise and that it has been cloning people all along that we talked about in our presentation slides, it will get a little difficult because it requires a different lens. So it has to start with, somewhere an admission of the truth and a little courage to challenge the system. There is no third way.
People are unlikely to take loans. What should the banking industry do? Well, people are never unlikely to take loans. They're unlikely to pay interest on the loan, right? So people always need the money. That's a fundamental shift. Offer the loan to them, give it interest free for a period of 1 year from the time that the national lockdown ends. Create that kind of a proprietary advantage in the market. Your money is sitting idle in the bank. You're paying interest to your savings accounts on that. Might as well give it interest free of people and save that outflow of savings interest. Let them use it. And a year of interest free is hardly anything to go by in today's market. Otherwise, sit on the money.
We are into pest control product, and by the length and breadth and understanding of your question, I'm assuming that you have a good client base, because what you have written is that you have been doing all this in commercial spaces and hotels and stuff. And what are you supposed to do now? Now, my question is whether people are going or under a lockdown, pests are not. So your business per se of controlling pest, you may be under a lockdown right now, but can you innovate a way that you're ensuring the hygiene?
Really, one second. I have an idea. What you need to be doing is scaring people. Approach HR heads of all the companies, tell them it takes 15 days for spiders and cockroaches to surface in closed offices, and tell them you'll be ready with completely pest-free environment for them on the day the lockdown ends. You've got your sales pitch right there.
So true. Great.
What else do we have? FMCG company do to tap into the opportunities? I think It's a bit of a radical thought, but the biggest thing that the FMCG company, and that can be a service to the whole industry, can do is go teach the traditional cement and infrastructure industries on how to create an FMCG market. They're struggling right now to come up with solutions you already have. They're struggling with a distributor base that they don't have, which you have. Collaborate and make money there, even if you're not selling your products.
How do we ensure that they do not lose the awesomeness? So I think once you have awesomeness, it stays with you. So don't be afraid about losing it. I think the point is, how are we creating this into our day-to-day working interactions, relationships, and connections? And the first way to start with is authenticity. Authenticity about what you're saying to your people, doing to your people, and you're coming across as someone who is willing to step up with them and be there in their problems. The awesomeness gets created. And as in the slide also we mentioned about the spirit of transformation, inclusiveness, about creating channels where people are genuinely trusting rather than just coming because their boss asked them to do so. These exactly make you an awesome person, leader, follower, whatever you wish to be.
Another question on automotive components that are guided by automobile manufacturers. We've already answered this. Don't be guided by automobile manufacturers. What is the product that you're manufacturing? Where else is it to be used? If you're manufacturing car seats, it's used in cinema halls. If you're manufacturing steering wheels, it can be used in anything. Think the product, even go beyond it. Don't think of the automobile manufacturer. What can we innovate? Affordable housing along with cement. I think the need of the hour is an affordable hospital with the cement, not affordable housing. Can you create dismantleable hospitals using steel and cement and create a model for it? Beat China's 90-day model to it. You have a worldwide market waiting there. So I don't think you should be focusing on cash flows and supply chains as thinking of your problems. Think innovation. In 30 days, get ready with the design of a market around the world. Forex industry do differently. Foreign exchange is today about not about travel and stuff. Foreign exchange today is about getting a return on investment. I bought some pounds to be sent somewhere on 20th of March for 85 rupees. I sold them for 95 rupees yesterday. So that's 10%. That's an opportunity missed already for you. There would have been a lot of people buying from you had you been able to guarantee a 10% result in lockdown in 1 month. And please spot these opportunities. That's your market.
How can luxury brands, clothings can overcome all of this? So interesting it is right now. Yes, a lot of it is impacted by what's happening. However, what I would say is these are things which this is a time to look at it differently. And instead of thinking about where can you pump your products, can you look at where can you source a brand form? Right now, and yesterday we were reading this HBR article, whether it comes to brands, whether it comes to people who are brands, this is a time to source them. They would be available for sale. There are things cracking in the global markets. In case, there is an opportunity available with you that you can buy a brand, bring something back, so that as soon as the lockdown impact is over, you have that brand available with you and you are able to go out with a bigger impact. So start from that. As it is a lot of consumption of whatever you would be exporting, whatever you would be doing in this segment, eventually happens in the third world countries, so to say. So look at it right now.
And all, again, you have to switch it to investment. Gold is investment. Gold is not fashion today. So you have to think in those terms, clothing and accessories. Nothing stopping you from selling online. You don't have a retail store. I think you're limiting your thinking and thinking that you have to go to a retail mall. Malls are going to be shut. Can you come up with an alternate arrangement where you can take the mall to people? So start thinking like that. Why can't you have a truck modified into a clothing store, tie up with all the resident welfare associations and be ready to send a shopping mall to people's houses? What's stopping you? Is it the right time to start a wellness center? Of course not. It's the right time to start a mental wellness center, but online, not offline. No one's going to be allowed to come there. But if you have the money, it's going to be the right time to buy the property to do it later.
So someone is just saying that people bubble with ideas at middle and lower levels. The problem is the leadership block. And what should be done? I think what needs to be done is go and tell this to your leaders that you are meeting. They need to hear this, and they need to hear this from you, that you basically, in name of expertise and facilitating stuff, at times you might be jeopardizing certain such bubbling activities. So that's what needs to be done.
Fire your leaders mentally. You can still do all of this. Why is there a need to wait for an approval? And I think that's the question to you, whoever's asking it. Why do you need to wait for an approval? It's the best time to take a risk on your job is today because it's already there.
There's a very interesting thought that I want to share here was, on this, that we always have leaders and even managers saying that we need empowerment and we need to empower people. And empowerment is what is felt. So that's always something that we have, kind of advocated, that empowerment is self-owned. No one can give you that. You can't take it from someone. So that's what I think probably Chetan is hinting to. How about a small scale interior designer? Well, again, it's not about a scale at this point in time as to more about reachability. Yes, no one is outside to decorating their homes, but at the same time, offices especially will need to redesign their offices to accommodate the norms of social distancing, to accommodate things. So be creative about it, reach out there and be online available.
Create an interior design model that inspires people to convert instantly by the way of walking in, to change their negativity into positivity. You've got your business there. And approach offices that your people are likely to walk into a mess and think negatively and think they're going to fire tomorrow. We can, with one shift of furniture or whatever, change their mindset to be thinking positively and brilliant ideas, something like that. Textile and garment industry do differently. Of course, you're in trouble. There are no exports going to happen. It's the best time to think of your own brand. Your biggest of brands that you are supplying to currently around the globe will survive only for about 6 to 9 months. Think of a brand that you can buy out if you have the money. They're going to be available to you less than the cost of renting houses today. So think of it, seriously think of it. You can own an international luxury brand at a pittance value in about 6 months' time. If you have the money, become your own supplier.
Is it wise to invest in projects which would take 2 years for commissioning, or should we wait to see the outcome? Now, had you been specific, we could have answered it better. Overall, if the project is in line with something that is right now is going to shape future, is right now impacting what coronavirus has done, immediately. If not, then it depends on what is the kind of project, and plus what is the kind of cash flow you are sitting with, that you can wait for 2 years and still invest in a project.
There are questions around technologies and stuff. I don't know what specifically this means. I'm unable to answer it, but there is an opportunity for technology. Working from home is going to be a reality. I'm sure there are many people working in this, but you need to come up with a solution whereby employers can monitor people who are working from home and convert it from a. We have this inherent capability in India to doubt people who work from home. Can you come up with a solution which enables employers to trust people who will be working from home, which is essentially enabling them to move from measuring input to measuring output? Come up with a solution. It's a radically transformative idea. It helps, and don't have your sales pitch around a solution, have it around how it saves rent for organizations who have more than 1,000 employees and stuff. How can you enable BPOs and all these people to continue to work from home? They serve they save crores and crores in rents, and you should have your sales.
What should saloons and academics do during these times? Very different things that you have asked. Again, the overarching theme is that what could you do to reach out to people if people can't come to you? As far as academics, what we would want to say is that in the last webinar also we focused that education is one thing which is not stopping. They are going online, they are switching to virtual. Still the rural and the urban platforms are untouched by it. Is there a way you can create their audience which probably can respond to you? Is there a way that you can go to them and solve a bigger problem of how, what is it that is to be done by education at this point in time? Do you want to have a tool for your class from going to class 4 to class 5, or do you want him to learn something out of this crisis? And a lot of people who have been into crisis have created breakthroughs. I don't see my child attending to any of the classes which a so-called very big school in Delhi is doing, but they're not attending to that. So is there equity there you can create? And Chetan, maybe you can add something to this.
Look, there is an opportunity for education. Just you'd have to stop thinking the way that everyone else is. It's not about teaching children 2 + 2 and ABCD. Everyone is doing that. So it doesn't set you differentiated. Look at history, examine people. Nelson Mandela was locked down for 27 years. Gandhi was locked down all his life. Mother Teresa was locked down in Calcutta. Aung San Suu in Burma was locked down forever. The people who've been locked down have created biggest breakthroughs in our last century. The world that you and I live in has been defined by people who've essentially been locked down into jails and ill-treated. Now, why can't an education school do an extensive series on people who've been locked down and how they've changed the world and teach that to children? And if you come up with a packaging such as this, I think every child is going to be wanting to sign up for it because it's a different thought process. And salons and all this stuff, you won't have people coming there. You'll have to take it to people. I think the same thing that we said for hotels and stuff.
Yeah.
So be ready with it.
Private equity and NBFC investor markets, what to do if stocks are crashing. Assuming you still have money while the stocks are crashing, again, we would want to say that this is a time to probably go for those what is available at the cheap dirt price right now. There are, because the prices are crashing, you need to relook at it. Maybe not quickly. There is something that you won't make your buck, but invest into credibility, invest into commodities, invest into companies which are credible but are, into this tank of time, and therefore are not able to find a breakthrough. So that
also,
is what
I would
it is
imagine
for you.
that it's the best time to be in private equity to buy stuff. So I don't know what's the fuss about. Exit all the traditional players and go for the innovative ideas. They're going to make a buck in the next 6 months. So if you have equity lying around and you have cash lying around to buy it, probably is the best time to buy. I don't imagine Warren Buffett not buying in this time.
So a very interesting one, and the question subsequent to it is like a question answer to it. So there is someone from the media agency saying that, building a business in brand advertising, brands are withdrawing most of the investments, and someone just prior to that has been asking that what can we do to make our product does not appear free on internet. I think this is where the marriage needs to happen. The media agencies, the advertising, you have that expertise to reach out to people and sell something. And the people out there who have not gone online till now, like in the normal times, who are now struggling, make a pitch to them, do a success fee or a partnership model, and that's where the marriage needs to happen. You have
also,
designers
there is
and creatives.
Opportunity for an advertising agency. You have relationships in largest organizations at the very senior levels, right? You are thinking of selling them these media services and media space and stuff that get out of that zone. It's not going to sell. You have clients, let's say client A, who's a big textile business, client B, who's a big cement business or an industry business. What does client A have that B needs and B have that C needs? And why can't you be the connector of those host beneficiary relationships and create business models around that? And you'll have the business ready tomorrow morning because you are the only one with access to senior leadership teams in different organizations. So why do you have to think of the media business as essentially selling advertisement and stuff? No, sell a solution. I know my X client, XYZ pharmaceutical company has this, and I know my B client who's an FMCG company needs that distribution channel. Well, there's your business.
So will a VR, sorry,
go ahead, Rolly.
Go on. So will a VR AR solution be something people will be open to, especially when they are used to free internet in India? I think right now it's not a matter of choice anymore. And with the way the things are progressing, everything is converting online. It's the best way if you can leverage that time for yourself and create that. And eventually, if you are adding to people's value, luxury, comfort, necessity, need, or idea, eventually it is going to convert into monetary terms. If not today, then tomorrow.
India has an opportunity to take over some part of China's business. I think India is losing the opportunity to take care of Indian businesses. Forget China businesses for a while. I think we're completely lack of imagination. We're not able to handle business in India. We're thinking of buying in China. Maybe that market is better. Get out of this thinking. If you have a product that will sell in India, it will sell in China and it will sell in the United States. Figure out what is it that you're going to manufacture and sell before thinking of where it is going to be sold in. I don't think Indians have the opportunity to take part of Chinese business. I think India have the threat that a majority of them are going to be overtaken by Chinese investors.
What will be the fate of farmers? I wouldn't say that I'm an expert to comment on that. However, having said that, produce, whatever they are doing, wherever it is going, those kind of industries are going to need them. We as people are going to need the food that they are producing, I think are efficient. There is an opportunity for supply chain management to come in, and they have started to do that. Big brands like ITCs and Domino's have seemed to tie it up, so they are directly reaching out to rural sectors. So anyone who works in a rural kind of a sector, whether it is agrochemical, whether it is directly sourcing something, whether it is retail which was working in a rural sector, there is enough opportunity, because eventually the crop cycle has happened, the producers are there, and they are being leveraged.
Right. Now, there are two questions in this. Awesomeness is a hazy concept. How do we create a vision around it? And the second one says it's a mindset. It does not get created overnight. I think both answers are self-explanatory. Yes, it's a hazy concept, which basically means we don't have it. And yes, it's a mindset, which again means we don't have it. We're used to mediocrity in our companies. We create products and then we have processes, and we're happy with a 5-10%. As long as that are coming, the shareholders are happy. Now, that's your problem, that awesomeness does not exist in companies. And even if it exists, it means radical changes. If you don't have something out of the box today, and if this lockdown, God forbid, extends for 6 months, all your lack of awesomeness will shut down. Your only opportunity will be to produce it. And most people who will get fired out of jobs and will try to find job opportunities or business opportunities, those will be the disruptors of the future. Once they don't have a choice, it gets produced. So why can't you get into a mindset that you really don't have a choice but to do this? And when you put yourself in that situation, you'll automatically be thinking like it. Look at it in your personal life. Supposing you were to lose your job tomorrow and you won't have money to feed your family tomorrow, what will you do? Will you say that I can't be awesome and think of a way, or will you go out and bloody hell do something and get it in? And I think it'll be the latter. And that's the mindset that you need to get into, because everyone has it. By saying that it's a mindset and we don't have it, you're never going to get it.
In the forthcoming months, there will be a trust deficit with regard to all levels. In such scenarios, should a brand focus on cash sales or extend additional credit? So we always say this, that you should never bring out solutions and negotiations to a single piece. So okay, I will only do cash is one way to look at it and a safe way to look at it, but you might be missing out on a livers of opportunities. Is there a long-term or a short-term exchange that you can create? Are there tie-ups that you can do, that in exchange of, let's say someone is cash deficit, is there a guarantee of service that you can avail from them? So I think you need to be a little creative. Yes, cash is required by everyone, and so the person on the lender side will also be needing his cash. So assuming that we will only be doing cash sales and everyone will be ready to pay that and carry, is also a very wrong assumption to have in the current times.
I'll tell you one more answer to this. The question that you need to ask is, how much risk can you take on bad debts? And if you can, then give credit and get the market share. What is your average intake from a customer over a period of 1 year? Don't look at it as 3 months, look at it as 1 year. And now if you're going to get this much in 1 year, how much of that are you willing to risk for 9 months? And I think it's a great opportunity to acquire market share, but at the risk of that cash never coming back to you. The market share will come. So if you have the pockets, by all means, take it. There's never going to be another opportunity like this to acquire the market share.
Is it advisable to start up
something? Sorry, go ahead.
Go on. Okay.
Again, there was a question on
start up online groceries. I would share this from experience. My society got sealed, as in because there were positive cases discovered some 3-4 days back, and the person who was inside the colony was never online. In 3 days, there was something that he developed through a software friend of his, and he's taking orders online, delivering packaged, cleaned, and everything at the gate of the societies, and the Noida authorities people are delivering it inside. So I think from experience, I can say, and our trust on that person is much more than the Amazons of the world and whatever in such times. So definitely you should. This is something coming from my personal experience. I think you'll be more than welcome.
What I meant, I think it's a clarifying question from a cement company. What I meant from the cement question was, should we not innovate and add something to cement that can be used in affordable housing? Now, I would pause you here. I'm not even reading the rest of your question. And the reason is this. The output you've said that the government wants is affordable housing. The input you are giving is cement, probably because you work in the cement industry. What makes the best affordable housing? Does it have to be cement, or is it some other product? Because the product that you need to deliver is affordable housing. Is glass walls made of glass and wood cheaper? Is cement cheaper? What it is? If the idea is affordable housing, get stuck on that point and figure out what's the best product in that, rather than how can cement get into that. World over, affordable housing is not made with cement. It's made with glass and wood. I don't know about the Indian reality.
So I think a continuation of that sector's question, that focusing on, I mean, these are bulk constructions and labor cost is very comparatively lower. However, with innovations and everything coming in, new machines, new technology, which comes at a higher cost and eats away all the margins, how can we even open to innovate? I think what we are missing out here is that you are looking for, okay, this is what my product is, this is how I do a thing, and I have to innovate in this space, and therefore my profit should also come from here. So as long as there is a boxed thinking like that, you never know that probably for the cement industry or for making construction, I'm assuming you're from a construction industry, it's not that profit is going to come from those same making of roads and having those construction structures. The profit may be sitting out somewhere else, which you could leverage and innovate at this point in time. Do you think that SpaceX is getting created with Tesla's, isn't getting created with Tesla's money? So this is basically, you have to feed in from one source, and you have to let bubble the innovation idea come up and give you a pipeline for future.
Give some solutions for retail chain of store electronics. What will they do now? Very straightforward. Your store will shut down because you won't have the money to pay rents after the lockdown lifts up, because there are going to be no customers coming in. However, if you're an established retail store and you've given the name here, which I'm not reading, so it's pretty evident that you have a chain of retail stores, shut them all, build mobile user centers or touch and feel centers, whatever you want to call it. So one for television, one for refrigerators, one for washing machine. Make them mobile, take it to whoever the customer who wants to buy it. Have 10 televisions displayed in a truck. It goes to people's house, book the order and come back. No one's coming to your retail store. That doesn't mean they don't need these products. My television's not working, I don't know where to buy it. So if you had a mobile van coming in, you have a customer.
What do you think if people would be eager enough to grow their own food and lazy enough to not do so? I think right now, speaking from heart, I'm too lazy to even cook my own food. So forget growing. So I mean, a kitchen garden always works, fair enough. But I think there is going to be no, and thus if you are in this business, there is no denying that this is an industry which will grow. Food is something there have been wars for. So you're never going to be out of business. If you're not online, just try and be. If you are, make the most of it.
Do you feel the war-like situation post? I think it's an incorrect term to use. Why are we equating it to a war-like situation? This is all media hype. It's a disease. It's a disease which is not even as deadly as made out to be. It has a 2% death rate, right? Our accidents have a higher death rate. Now, yes, there's going to be an effect on the entire world economy, and rightly so. But what is this world economy? World economy is made of businesses like you and I. What are businesses doing? They're still questioning whether they can be creative or not. So it will have an impact on the world economy, and it will have an impact on businesses who do not have a creative response. The ones who are able to come up with a creative response will actually end up growing in this market rather than not growing in this market. I'm pretty certain our company will grow in this market, unlike maybe other training and learning and consulting companies. We are pretty sure we're acquiring customers right now as we speak. So there's no degrowth.
What does it mean to be an effective leader in these times for a graphic design agency? I think the same rules that apply for any creative agency apply to you too. Certainly no one is out there to pay you for your design right now. But if your design is, partnering in ways that can bring them something in return, okay, right now probably we are doing these webinars. Someone might be doing something else. Can you partner with them, with such companies, and bring up customers to them, take it as a success fee, move on and create that value for them? The options are wide open. This all comes from a creative space. There is no looking back.
Create a platform, use your 90 days to create as many designs and upload them for free for people to design. Make sure they're better than any advertising agency so that they don't get paid and you've acquired the market.
Yeah, that's what we are doing with the webinars, by the way. Okay. What kind
Please,
of food innovation be done with CPG companies? Should we tie up with pharmaceutical companies? If you're telling me you're going to inject medicine into my food, doesn't sound quite promising to me. So just think twice about that idea. So
get food to people. Go cook in their houses. Do something. I mean, food is needed, right? And people after the lockdown going to be stuck at home because they still can't go to offices. And the number one thing that will stop them from doing so is who will cook food at home. So go cook it for them. That's what you need to do. You don't need to inject it with pharmaceutical companies. Just inject it with some care and love, and you'll be fine. Is it the right time to buy stake in good companies? It depends what you define as good company. So a lot of good companies will go down. A lot of innovative companies will come up. So please be careful. I don't know about stake to buy or not to buy. I'm not a stock market guy, but I know for sure that a lot of good companies are going to go down because they're good and they can't be great.
I am into service. Can I legally get into a business simultaneously? So if you're not employed by an employer and there is a conflict of interest, no law in India says that a professional can't start a business on its own or can't join someone. If that's what your question is.
You can't legally get into a business, but you're working from home and you can, and you'll find your way around it. We can't say much on that.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a question. I'm just trying to find it. That if you have something, you can take it till then.
So does expertise create? Does expertise create a tunnel vision that you talked about? In a way, yes. Expertise comes from a place of, so with due respect, it does come from a place of intelligence and doing things right again and again, and a deep-seated sense of knowledge. Yes, why it does create a tunnel vision for a person is because that sense of expertise sometimes blocks us to look into some things which are non-expertise. That's the reason why we say that these two things need to be washed out for. And I'll share my experience from a creativity conference that I had attended, and a very nice idea that I took away from there was that expertise is something which will give you all the expert advices and all the expert functionalities at one point in time. What it doesn't see is something which is highly improbable. And most of the time, the crisis solution, the trendy, the innovative solutions lie into that probability. So we are just saying that while expertise is required, but you should be open to that zone of probabilities.
There's a question on construction industry and with respect to labor, and I'm not addressing the construction industry, but I'm addressing the labor issue. I was speaking with an air conditioner manufacturing company day before yesterday, and they are expecting a surge in demand because it's summer months and a lot of air conditioners haven't even been serviced in people's houses, right? And I was telling them, you've missed the point by letting your casual labor go and not paying them, because that market is going to be owned tomorrow, not by who has the air conditioners ready, but who has the number of people ready to go and service 10,000 homes in one day. And I think the same holds true for whichever industry you're in. If you've ill-treated your labor and let them go, it's going to come and bite you back into the business tomorrow when the lockdowns opens up, because the labor is not going to be ready to do anything for you. However, take an example of this air conditioning company. If you took care of that labor and paid them for these 2-3 months and took care of them nicely, tomorrow they would have served 10,000 homes for you no matter what it took. So even if you missed that point, get a learning from this right now. This is not the time to be letting people go with that short-sighted tunnel approach, is what we were discussing in the presentation. Future of large format furniture stores. Obviously, no one's going to be coming to your furniture stores, but you can go to people, not in retail or not in people's houses and stuff, but go to corporate environments and stuff. Can you fit in? Can you design a solution where people who had 10,000 square foot office and fitted in, let's say, 1,000 people, you can show them a creative way to now fit in 2,000 people without ruining the energy, and you've got a business model of saving 1,000 square feet of rent for them. So think differently.
Yeah.
So what's the end result of it?
Sorry, Chetan, go on. Yeah. Post-COVID, if I'm building community-based platform in automobile industry, what are the chances? So post any crisis, consolidation and cannibalism, both are profound. So if your platform can cater to bringing things together, either it is an answer to that consolidation happening, or it is an answer to people buying over and taking over, I think it will certainly be something which can give a fillip to our overall industry as such.
I don't understand what is a community-based platform in automobile industry, by the way. Exports is hit, especially apparel and garment industry. Of course it is. It's a great opportunity to buy out a leading luxury brand and bring it to India and get an investor interested in it, because they should be. So if you are an export manufacturer, if you are a garment manufacturer who's been supplying to these brands, make a bid for the brand, make a bid to an investor, bring that brand to India, you'll make a lot of money in years to come. It's temporary, this situation. Furniture is the last thing people want to buy in today. Why is it the last thing that people want to buy today? Because you can't sell it, and so you assume that it's the last thing people want to buy. Why? Why can't you scare people? Go to offices and tell them your furniture likely has corona stains on it. I mean, what's preventing you? Do some research on it and then produce some corona-resistant furniture. It's the last thing people want to buy because it's the last thing you want to outthink out of.
And to add to, even a simple solution, like lot of our meeting rooms, lot of our boardrooms, they have a particular kind of a structure. Can you quickly come out with a design and help, as he said, reach out to HR and admin heads and bigger corporates, even houses, wherever, to modify the structures which are more, pro for this point in time. So just you need to be thinking a little out of box. Can you come up with something like that, which is movable, fungible, something like that?
Should open house concepts be adopted in industries to make managements come and think of different? Yes, go ahead, please. Why don't you organize a conference, get your management there, do it for free, take these presentations or get from somewhere else, invest time in all these things which will change people's minds. And chaos is good. Will it help or create chaos? It will create chaos, and without chaos there is no creativity to be created. So create chaos, make them feel like shit about the way they're thinking, and get them to do something differently. If they're still thinking that they're God's answers to this world, then God help you as well. But you need to do something, shake it up.
How much impact will IT hardware? Yeah.
Will IT hardware company face? It depends on your imagination. How much impact will IT hardware company face post COVID-19? How much time does it take for a system to crash if it's shut down? I don't have the data, but if it takes a decent amount of time, systems would be shut for 60 days at least. And would they have crashed by then? I don't know. Is there a way you can make them crash? I don't know. Please see.
So food scarcity is going to happen in future if the lockdown continues. And I'm sure we wouldn't be the right people to comment on this, but having said that, the government has taken cognizance of it, and yesterday's announcement about, categorizing into zones, slightly opening the spaces, is to support all of this, and they have always been focusing on the essential things. Yes, it has taken a hit, but for this to go on is a wrong assumption to have, because food industry is covered as essentials. If you are one among them, come out with a creative idea and do something which people haven't experienced and would delight them into this time.
I'm an HR professional for 20 years. I want to take a final call from current employment, hence thinking of a startup, but what should I do? It's not a $1 billion decision. Whoever's asking this, you're an HR professional. What is the thing that is available in abundance today is talent, right? People globally are getting fired. Approach organizations, tell them you can replace their existing talent with 30% better talent globally. Get your customers first, then quit your job, because if you've got your customers who are interested in getting the best talent on board from the world, then your job's pretty straightforward. You keep doing HR, but do it for yourself. The talent is the biggest business. It's an HBR article as of yesterday that the global talent is available for cheaper than ever before, and the best of people. So approach organizations where you have relationships, tell them you'll find them much better people, and why not?
So regarding all the door-to-door delivery service, how do you deal with the labor or the person who is the most vulnerable? And I think that's exactly what we have been asking you to ensure, that while we are suggesting you go out to people, this basically premise that whosoever you are sending to my door is taken care of, has been screened, goes back and has a sanitation regime in place. These are the things that you will have to inculcate into your infrastructure and leverage.
For the textile company who was asking questions, can you use your textile to cover them up in a way that is corona resistant? That's an opportunity for textile, and you have customers 7 billion around the world instantly. And when will the delivery company start thinking of drones? I mean, when is the time to use it if not today? Even the reason India didn't allow them, because it malfunctions with their air congestion and those kind of systems. Those are non-existent today. So when will you do it?
Are companies making a mistake by administering pay cuts a little too quickly? So yes, we have a view on the pay cuts, and we always see them as the last resort if nothing is possible. In fact, one of my friends, ironically, yesterday had shared a very big company announcing the CEO taking a complete pay cut, and all his senior leadership taking a pay cut of 10 to 30%. And in the evening was another announcement by them making crores and crores of profit, running in 4 figures right in the same evening. So these kind of dichotomies, I think they speak a lot about where you're coming from. Necessary, you have to do it, but even if you have to do it, start with deferring first. Start by seeing, if there are other ways to do it, make it into variable rather than going for an acute pay cut. And if you have to, then you have to.
And listen, there is an interesting question to ponder upon with respect to this around pay cuts. Companies who are having to enforce pay cuts, why are they having to enforce pay cuts versus employees lining up to voluntarily take a pay cut? Now, that's the cultural picture that you have, that that's much how your employees care for you. And in that situation, companies are forced to announce pay cuts and stuff. It's a very short-sighted strategy. Even though Reliance did it yesterday, it's still a short-sighted strategy. It's just been 45 days into the lockout, and the largest company in India, who's probably the most cash rich, has to resort to that. It's just not right. It's complete lack of imagination. If you have 100,000 employees like they do, that's 100,000 brains who can't collectively come up with a solution out of it. It to me tells me entire thing about how imaginative the culture can be or not.
So whilst there is emphasis on creativity, in my opinion, perhaps it asks for more expenditure and complicated designs, traditional box thinking.
These are all excuses to not do it. They're not real. Creativity just needs investment of time and mind into thinking. To think does not need an expenditure. It doesn't charge you rent your mind. So please don't talk yourself out of it. These are just the way of getting back into the comfort zones to move focus back into reducing costs and whatnot. It's not scalable in this kind of an environment. Your only option, whether it costs you money or it costs you discomfort or it costs you mind share, is to come up with something innovative or shut down.
And even in our presentation, the opening slide was this, that bread was invented in ABC year, and it took about 1,000 years to make a sandwich or something like that. So it's not about expenses. It's about how creativity even helps in leveraging whatever has been produced. So if you are not creative around this, it's not just about incurring a cost or saving a cost. It's also about whether you are optimally using whatever you have created for yourself. So even that.
Do you think business consultants would make great businessmen? No, I don't think so. Is there an opportunity for them? There's an opportunity for them to build trust. I think a lot of business consultants, and I'm talking about the leading companies, are making the mistake of doing seminars for 500 and 3,000 rupees with ET and all. It's just not needed. What's needed for you is to build trust with people so that you have a business later. And how do you do that? You do that by advising people when they're in trouble for free. And not just for free, you build a long-term relationship. Consulting business thrives on relationship building. When everyone is at home waiting for your phone calls and will be accessible, it's the best time to build that relationship. So why not focus on that relationship building, which in times when it will get busy, you will struggle to get a 10-minute meeting. Today, you will get an hour's time slot in just because you have an idea to offer. I think it's short-sightedness to do these 500 rupee seminars and 3,000 rupee seminars, no matter what branding you are going with. It's far better strategy to go and advise a person in need when he needs it, and when he listens to you, you have a lifetime relationship to nurture from there on.
And I think what Chetan said also reminds me of the first question that was here, that consulting and training companies, what can they do? Exactly this. I mean, your senior partners, they are billed by the minute. Right now, if you can partner with the clients that are on top of your list, or who can have that kind of an expert there, lease them out for 2-3 months is what we are saying. Go and create with them, not for revenue, but for ideation, but for brainstorming. Is there something, some value that you can offer, which is just not money? The money is incidental and it will happen anyway. So yes.
The last question, which is on our screen, we told you we'll take about 90, and this is 98th question. Do you feel companies, MSME postpone capex planned for this year? It's an open-ended question. I can't answer it like that. But as a result of that capex, what are you hoping to generate? What are you going to be producing? If it's going to be producing the same stuff that you were doing yesterday, yes, postpone it, cancel it, abolish it. You might find a company that's already doing that for much cheaper than your capex itself. However, if you're going to be manufacturing something that doesn't exist, that feeds into the demand of tomorrow, by all means do it. You don't need to abandon it. There are also coaches who charge above 10,000 to grow businesses. Is it a question? Is it a... No one can grow your business for 10,000 rupees or even for 10 crores of rupees. You have to do it yourself. So I don't know. The coaches who are saying that they'll grow your business are probably lying to you. Should
They're
this be
growing
a year
their practice, in fact.
Yeah. No one can grow your business for 10,000. If I could grow your business, I'd certainly not just take 10,000 from you. Should this be a year to buy market share, sacrificing profit? It's a year. Question your capex requirements. You're building a plant, for example, that's going to do this. I'm telling you that plant, which is already doing it, will be for sale cheaper than what you will put a plant together for. So why spend your money there? Just acquire a company. How to get new clients for a real estate company? You won't get a new client, so come up with a new deal. Offer to renegotiate their rental contracts and offer them 50% reductions and take a 10% off that. That's your business model. We done?
I think we are done. Great. It has been nice answering all these lovely questions. In case something else comes to mind, do write to us. We'll be here next week. Till then, Chetan, would you also want to say bye-bye?
Well, we've had a good time answering all these questions. I know we've gone a little fast at times and stuff, but the larger spirit of the answers being that you need to be able to think of something differently and not the traditional thought process. It's not that you can't do it. The mind gets us back time and again into redoing the same thing because that's comfortable, that's known. Essentially, you have to put a stop to it and attempt the uncomfortable. You have nothing really to lose, even if you do it. That's like the free risk situation market for the time being. We'll see you again next week. Thank you all for joining in. For all these questions, they'll be posted soon on the platform and you'll have access to it. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.